This chart illustrates the reality for Warner Bros. Discovery in early 2025. The company's stock value has plummeted by 60%, pinned down by a $43 billion block of corporate debt. To keep the company solvent, CEO David Zaslav formulated a strategy to sever the film and streaming studios from the legacy cable networks, splitting the empire. But the executive team's own actions undermined that strategy. In just 90 days, insiders offloaded over 8 million shares, including the chief financial officer selling $10.5 million worth, signaling a lack of faith to the market. A century of film history provides no defense against a hollow balance sheet. The weakened media titan became a prime target for a corporate raid. In December 2025, Netflix announced an agreement to acquire the Warner Bros. Studios and streaming assets for $82.7 billion. To pull this off, Netflix abandoned its long-held philosophy of building its own library rather than buying others. The ink was barely dry when David Ellison, CEO of Paramount Skydance, stepped in. He refused to accept the sale as final and immediately launched a hostile takeover campaign. Stealing a $100 billion company away from a market leader with over 300 million global subscribers requires navigating specific strategic and legal barriers. The first maneuver is a structural bypass known as a tender offer. Instead of negotiating with a resistant board of directors, a hostile bidder makes a cash pitch directly to the company's shareholders. This scaleways the complex Netflix agreement, cash, stock, and network spinoffs, against Paramount's heavy counterattack, a flat $31 per share cash bid. Paramount then added an insurance policy, attaching a $2 billion payout, guaranteeing cash for shareholders even if the government blocked the deal. This triggers a legal requirement called fiduciary duty. Because Paramount's all-cash bid offered a higher mathematical return, the Warner Bros. Board was legally obligated to evaluate it, despite their prior commitment to Netflix. But liquidity removes the element of choice. Raw cash allows an external bidder to legally force a corporate board into negotiations they never wanted to have. When the Warner board still signaled loyalty to Netflix, Paramount escalated. They rallied major activist hedge funds, including Ancora and Pentwater Capital, to attack the leadership from the inside. So these activists threatened a proxy contest. Their goal was to mobilize enough shareholder votes to fire the entire Warner Bros. Board of directors and replace them with a team that would accept Paramount's bid. To build support, the hedge funds took their accusations public. They claimed the board's commitment to Netflix was driven by personal friendships among executives, rather than the financial interests of the investors. The Warner board members were trapped. They faced losing their positions, public scrutiny of their motives, and legal liability for ignoring their obligations. A corporate board's authority appears absolute, but that power evaporates the moment a coalition of billionaire shareholders decides to reclaim it. While investors applied pressure internally, Paramount opened a second front in Washington, D.C., attempting to prove to Wall Street that the Netflix deal would never survive government scrutiny. The Department of Justice issued a second request antitrust probe. This investigation halted Netflix's acquisition timeline, effectively freezing their momentum. Hollywood directors like James Cameron and major labor unions lobbied Congress. They argued handing Warner Bros. To Netflix would diminish the traditional cinematic box office. The pressure extended to back-channel politics regarding Warner's ownership of CNN. Donald Trump displayed deep hostility toward the network, demanding a change in its leadership. Administration officials criticized the Netflix agreement. Paramount executives made direct assurances to Washington that they would implement structural changes to CNN the White House favored. Modern mergers are won not just in boardrooms, but by successfully turning the levers of federal power against a rival. Facing threats from activist investors, the Warner board utilized a contractual loophole. They forced Netflix to grant a 7-day waiver, allowing Warner to hear Paramount's final $110.9 billion bid. Facing a hostile regulatory environment and a proxy battle, Netflix calculated the cost of friction. They decided the hurdles were too high, declined to match the offer, and walked away. Warner CEO David Zaslav's exit payout reaches $800 million, a massive windfall following the company's extreme debt. Netflix didn't leave empty-handed either. By walking away, they collected a $2.8 billion cash breakup fee, avoiding Warner's debt completely. For consumers, the consequence is further consolidation. The surviving entity is moving to merge Paramount Plus and Max into a single, massive streaming platform. The traditional Hollywood studio system is consolidating out of necessity. Global scale is the primary defense against mounting debt and changing viewer habits. Ultimately, legacy media is violently merging historic assets into fewer, much larger hands to survive.